The sun was cruel that day. It leaned heavy on the roofs of the little town, flattening everything beneath its white glare. The dust in the square hung in the air like a thin veil, stirred only by boots scuffing against boards and the restless stamping of horses. Folks gathered close, all eyes drawn to the wooden platform at the center, where shame was sold cheap and voices carried like the crack of a whip. Evelyn Harper stood upon it, wrists bound with rawhide, her skin damp beneath the heat. She felt every gaze upon her, men squinting, measuring, whispering the worth of her body as if she were cattle. Women sneered, lips curling into that sharp kind of smile that never held kindness. She wanted to vanish, to fold herself into shadow. But there was no shadow here, only a merciless sun and the auctioneer's booming cry. Here we got a fine specimen, strong hips, a widow but still in her prime. Who'll start the bidding? The laughter struck her like stones. Evelyn kept her chin low, though the ache in her throat begged to scream. Then her pulse flared. A wild thing inside her broke loose. Before her mind could reason, her legs carried her forward. She ran. Gasps scattered like startled birds. Boots shuffled. Someone shouted, "She's off!" Evelyn's skirt tangled around her ankles. The wooden steps jarred her knees as she leapt from the block. Dust rose high around her heels. She could hear laughter chasing her, voices jeering. "Run, girl, run. Ain't nowhere to go." Her breath tore at her ribs. She reached for open street, for any escape from those eyes. But her foot caught on a rut, her body pitched forward, and she hit the dirt with a sickening thud. The square erupted in cruel laughter. Hands grabbed her, dragged her back. Her cheek pressed against grit, sun searing the back of her neck. She did not resist. Not because she lacked will, but because every ounce of it had already been crushed in the weight of their stares. And then silence. A shadow fell across her, long, unmoving. The crowd stilled as a man stepped forward. He had been there all along, though unnoticed until now. Tall, broad-shouldered, skin darkened by sun and bloodline, black hair tied at the nape, a scar carving a pale crescent across his jaw. His eyes, stone unblinking. Tahu. They knew him. Some feared him. Some spat his name in secret. But no one, not even Sheriff Amos Cutter, spoke as he reached the platform. He carried no weapon in hand, yet none doubted he was dangerous. He did not raise his voice, nor spit insult. He simply laid a pouch of silver at the sheriff's feet. The sound of it hitting was louder than the crowd's held breath. Sheriff Cutter narrowed his eyes, shifted uneasily. But coin was coin, and in this town, silver outweighed shame. "Done," he muttered, pocketing the pouch. Mabel Jensen's shrill voice rose from the crowd. "Better off with a savage than alone, I reckon." Laughter followed, mean and sharp. Evelyn's heart hammered against her ribs. To be bought was one humiliation. To be bought by him, by a Comanche, was a brand she feared would never fade. But Tahu only stood, silent as stone. When Cutter cut the bindings from her wrists, the rawhide fell away, and for the first time in weeks her hands were her own again. He turned, walking. She followed because she had no choice. The walk through town was its own gallows march. People parted for them, though not without words. She's gone to him now. Savage's whore. Best she's worth. Evelyn kept her eyes on the ground, each word pressing harder into her skin than the sun overhead. She wanted to shrink into nothing, but beside her, Tahu's stride was steady, his silence a shield of sorts. Her throat burned, dry as bone. She staggered once, nearly fell. He paused, not to scold, not to grab, but simply to wait. When her steps faltered again, he held out a waterskin. His gaze did not pierce her. He looked away as she drank, as if to grant her a shred of dignity. That small gesture toward her more than cruelty ever had. They left the town behind, the buildings shrinking until only the plains stretched before them. The land opened wide, the wind carrying scent of sage and dust. Evelyn braced herself for command, for rough hands, for the cruelty she had always been told to expect. But none came. By a river's edge she let the horse drink. She too crouched, cupping water in her hands. When she looked back, she found his eyes on the horizon, not on her. He was a man made of silence, and yet his silence spoke more than any word spat at her in town. That night they camped by fire. He cooked, gave her food first, kept his portion small. The flames painted his face in harsh lines, Scar catching the light like silver. She could not bear the silence, so words tumbled from her. Fragments of her past, of the farm she lost, of the child that never drew breath. Words she had not meant to spill. Tahu listened, expression unreadable. He said nothing, yet when the night turned colder, he draped a blanket over her shoulders. She wept then, not from fear, but from the cutting gentleness of it. Days bled into one another. She learned his name only when she asked it, timid, and he answered with a single word. Tahu. He never asked hers, but she gave it anyway, and somehow, in the quiet way he nodded, she felt he carried it with weight. Whispers, however, carried faster than the wind. Sheriff Cutter did not like being made a fool, nor did Elias Boone, who had spat his coins at her like slop for swine and been denied. It was inevitable. They came. The day was cooling toward dusk when riders appeared. Cutter, Boone, and two others, faces tight with malice. Evelyn saw them crest a ridge, their shapes black against the bleeding sky. Her stomach sank. Cutter spat as his horse halted. She ain't yours to keep, Injun. Boone leered, spit tobacco. She belongs where she was, on that block. She's ours to bid, not yours to steal. Evelyn trembled. The fear returned, choking, familiar. She expected Tahu to reach for his blade, to fight, to turn this earth red. But he stood still, eyes unblinking, and something inside her broke free. For so long she had been silent. On the block, in the town, in her own damn life. Always lowered eyes, always bowed shoulders. Not now. She stepped forward, voice trembling but sharp as broken glass. I am not yours, she said, the words cracking the air like a whip. I was never yours. I walk where I choose. The men blinked as if struck. Boone's mouth twisted, but no words came. Cutter sneered, though his smirk faltered beneath the weight of her voice. Tahu did not move. He only stepped beside her, silent, steady, a wall that needed no words. The riders shifted, unsettled, not by the Comanche silence, but by the fire in a woman they thought forever broken. And so they turned, spitting, cursing, but turning. Their horses carried them back over the ridge, into the dying light. Evelyn's chest heaved. Her knees nearly buckled. But the flame inside her, the one buried so long under ash, burned. For once, she felt tall. Later, by the campfire, she sat in quiet, the stars endless above. Tahu tended the fire, face unreadable as always. Yet when her eyes met his, she realized the silence was not empty. It was shelter. And maybe, just maybe, she belonged nowhere but here. Time softens memory, and yet this one lingers. A woman once sold, once spat upon, once made to feel less than dirt, rose. Not because someone saved her, but because she dared speak, dared claim her worth. The Comanche did not change her with words. He changed her by giving her silence in which her own voice could grow. The town still gossiped, no doubt. They always will. But Evelyn Harper walked straighter now. The chains they bound her with shame, ridicule, fear, lay broken in the dust behind her. So hear me, listener. When the world calls you unworthy, when it binds your wrists with its cruel laughter, remember her. Remember the way she stood, voice shaking but strong enough to turn men's faces pale. And may you too find a moment to speak, and in speaking, set yourself free.